Welcome to Land of Horror. Today, we will continue our journey to explore the most chilling mysteries. Do you have the courage to face spooky stories, terrifying legends, and unexplained supernatural phenomena? Join me as we delve into haunted places, dark secrets, and legendary figures that will send shivers down your spine. Before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any videos, and let's step into the world of Land of Horror together. Get ready, because thrilling moments await you. Are you ready to explore? In the heart of rural China, nestled between lush green hills, lay the small village of Yueyang. With its narrow streets and quaint houses, it was a place where time seemed to stand still. But beneath the surface of this idyllic village, darkness festered. The townsfolk whispered tales of a specter haunting their homes, a figure that appeared like a shadow in the night. Yang Xinhai was once a boy from this village. He grew up in a dilapidated home on the outskirts, raised by a single mother who struggled to provide for him. His childhood was marked by poverty and neglect, which bred feelings of inadequacy and bitterness. Yang was often bullied by his peers, the target of ridicule for his worn-out clothes and empty stomach. As he trudged home from school, he would watch the other children play, their laughter echoing through the streets, a cruel reminder of the happiness he would never know. But there was one person who saw beyond Yang's tattered exterior: Mei. She was a bright, cheerful girl, the daughter of the village blacksmith. Her kindness sparked a flicker of hope within Yang's heart. They spent afternoons exploring the nearby woods, sharing dreams of a better future. However, as they grew older, their paths diverged. Mei found companionship with a more affluent boy, leaving Yang feeling more isolated than ever. Years passed, and Yang's longing for connection turned into a bitter resentment. He found solace in the shadows, slipping into a life of petty crime to escape the crushing weight of his loneliness. He began to steal food from local markets, pilfering small items to survive. Though he knew it was wrong, it felt like the only way to gain a semblance of control in his chaotic life. One fateful evening, Yang overheard Mei laughing with her friends at the village square, a stark contrast to his own existence. Consumed by jealousy, he approached her, only to be met with disdain. Mei, now engaged to her childhood sweetheart, dismissed him with a cold, cutting remark. "You will never be anything more than a thief, Yang." The word struck him like a physical blow, igniting a firestorm of rage within him. It was the final straw in a life filled with rejection. That night, he lay awake, his mind swirling with dark thoughts. A plan began to take shape. If he couldn't have the happiness he craved, he would make sure no one else could enjoy it either. Yang's transformation into the Phantom began slowly. His first target was a family that had once welcomed him into their home. They had shown him kindness, and now they were a symbol of everything he could never have. With a hammer in hand, he crept into their house under the cover of darkness, his heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. Inside, he moved silently, the house still and quiet. The flickering light from the television cast eerie shadows on the walls. He paused outside the parents' bedroom, listening to their soft murmurs as they drifted off to sleep. The sight of their peaceful faces ignited a primal instinct within him. This was what he wanted: peace and happiness, even if it meant snuffing it out. Without hesitation, he swung the hammer, the sound echoing through the stillness of the night. The father barely had time to react before he fell to the ground, blood pooling beneath him. The mother awoke with a gasp, but Yang was ready. He dispatched her with the same brutal efficiency, the adrenaline pumping through his veins as he realized the power he held. As he left the scene, Yang felt alive for the first time. The horror of what he had done was overshadowed by a dark sense of triumph. The village would soon learn to fear the Phantom, a name he would embrace as his own. With each murder, Yang refined his technique, becoming more methodical and elusive. He struck at night, choosing families that reminded him of his own lost dreams. Those who laughed, loved, and lived in the light. Each victim added to his growing list, and the media soon caught wind of the gruesome events unfolding in the countryside. Reports began to circulate about a mysterious figure dubbed the Monster Killer. As fear swept through the villages, people began to lock their doors at night, whispering stories of a man who preyed on the unsuspecting. The police were baffled, struggling to find any leads as the bodies piled up. Yang watched from the shadows, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction at the chaos he had unleashed. Yet, with every victory came a haunting echo of guilt. After one particularly brutal night, he stood over the lifeless bodies of a family of 4, his hands trembling. A young girl had been hiding under her bed, watching in terror. Instead of silencing her, he fled into the darkness, her wide eyes haunting his thoughts. Was he becoming the monster he had always feared? As the investigation deepened, Detective Liu entered the scene. He was a seasoned officer, known for his tenacity and keen intuition. The string of murders weighed heavily on his conscience, each life lost adding to his growing frustration. He studied the crime scenes meticulously, searching for any clue that would lead him to the phantom. Liu soon discovered a pattern. Each family had ties to the community, members of the same social circles that Yang had once belonged to. He could see how Yang's pain had twisted into a monstrous rage against those who had rejected him. The detective began to understand that this was not merely a series of random killings. It was a personal vendetta. As Liu delved deeper into Yang's life, he found the echoes of a broken man, the failed relationships, the lost opportunities, the unfulfilled dreams. In his quest to bring the killer to justice, he found himself grappling with conflicting emotions. Could he save Yang from himself, or was he too far gone? With each passing day, the tension in Yueyang grew palpable. Families became prisoners in their own homes, the once bustling village now eerily silent. Liu held community meetings, urging residents to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activity. But even as they banded together, fear hung heavy in the air. Yang, meanwhile, became increasingly reckless. The thrill of the chase fueled his desire for violence, and he began to target larger families, gathering groups in public spaces to inflict maximum terror. His mind spiraled further into darkness, with each act of violence dulling his once flickering humanity. As Liu pieced together the clues, he realized he was racing against time. He needed to stop Yang before more innocent lives were lost. He began to connect with survivors, interviewing them to understand the psychology of the man they feared. Each story revealed layers of a complex individual, a man shaped by pain and rejection. In a desperate attempt to draw out the phantom, Liu orchestrated a town festival, hoping to lure Yang into the open. The night was alive with music and laughter, a stark contrast to the fear that gripped the community. Families gathered, their faces painted with smiles, unaware of the lurking danger. As the evening progressed, Yang watched from the shadows, torn between his desire for chaos and a nagging sense of remorse. The sight of families enjoying their lives ignited a familiar rage within him, but he also felt the weight of his past choices pressing down like a suffocating shroud. In a moment of hesitation, Yang turned away from the festival, retreating to the darkness. But it was too late. Liu had caught a glimpse of him, the glint of his new oversized shoes reflecting the festival lights. The chase was on. Liu sprinted through the crowd, adrenaline surging as he called for backup. Yang dashed through the narrow alleys, desperation fueling his escape. He knew he couldn't be caught. The thought of facing the consequences of his actions was unbearable. The streets were filled with laughter, the joyous sounds contrasting sharply with the tension that crackled between them. Liu followed the trail, his instincts guiding him as he navigated through the labyrinth of alleyways. The hunter and the hunted, each driven by their own demons. In a final desperate bid for freedom, Yang ducked into an abandoned warehouse, the door creaking ominously behind him. Inside, darkness enveloped him, a familiar cloak of solitude wrapping around his shoulders. But he was not alone. Lu burst through the door, eyes scanning the shadows, ready to confront the monster that had plagued his community. The two men faced each other, heartbeats echoing in the silence. Yang was a broken man, his eyes wild with fear and anger. Lu stood firm, determination etched across his face. "It's over, Yang. You can't run from what you've done." But Yang, filled with rage, snarled, "You don't understand. They took everything from me. I'm just giving them a taste of their own cruelty." Lu felt a surge of compassion, but steeled himself for what he had to do. "You don't have to continue this cycle. There's still a chance for you, but you have to let go of your vengeance." Their words hung heavy in the air, the tension crackling like static electricity. But before Lu could reason with him further, Yang lunged, and the confrontation erupted into chaos. The warehouse became a battleground, the echoes of their struggle a haunting reminder of the lives lost to Yang. The confrontation in the warehouse left both Yang Xinhai and Detective Lu reeling. As the dust settled, Lu found himself staring into the abyss of Yang's tortured soul. The chaos of their struggle faded, and in that silence, a fragile understanding began to emerge. Yang was not just a monster. He was a man shaped by tragedy, his darkness a reflection of the pain he had endured. As Yang was taken into custody, the weight of his actions began to settle on him. He had been running from himself, from the life he had built on a foundation of sorrow and rage. In the sterile confines of the police station, he faced the stark reality of his existence. The flashing lights and hushed whispers of officers filled the air, but all he could hear were the echoes of the lives he had destroyed. Meanwhile, Lu was consumed by the case. Each night, he pored over the files, the faces of the victims haunting him like specters. He could not shake the feeling that there was more to Yang's story than met the eye. The detective was determined to understand the man behind the mask of evil, to uncover the motivations that drove him to commit such heinous acts. As the investigation unfolded, Lu interviewed the families of Yang's victims. Each story revealed the harsh realities of their lives, the struggles they faced, the dreams they held, and the fears that had haunted them. They were not just statistics. They were people with histories, aspirations, and loved ones left behind. In one poignant interview, Lu met with a woman whose family had been torn apart by Yang's violence. Her voice trembled as she recounted the night of the attack. "We were just sitting down for dinner," she recalled, tears streaming down her face. "I heard a noise, and before I knew it, everything was gone. My husband, my children, they never had a chance." Lu felt a profound sense of empathy for the woman. He recognized that Yang's actions had repercussions that rippled through the community, leaving scars that would never heal. Yet, there was a part of him that sought to understand the darkness within Yang, the motivations that led him down this path. Was it simply revenge, or was there something deeper, a longing for connection and understanding? With each interview, Lu began to piece together the puzzle of Yang's life. He learned about Yang's troubled childhood, his failed relationships, and the overwhelming sense of rejection that had shaped him. It was a narrative that resonated with Lu, who had faced his own struggles in the pursuit of justice. One night, as Lu combed through Yang's past, he stumbled upon a file detailing a previous arrest for theft and assault. The date of the arrest coincided with a significant event in Yang's life, a breakup with Mei, the girl he had loved. Lu felt a spark of realization. Perhaps this was the catalyst that had set Yang on his destructive path. Driven by this newfound understanding, Lu decided to reach out to Mei. He needed to know more about Yang's past, to understand the relationship that had been a turning point in his life. When he found her, Mei was reluctant to speak. The memories of Yang were painful, and she had moved on, building a life away from the darkness that had engulfed him. However, after some coaxing, she agreed to share her story. Yang was different back then, she said, her voice filled with sorrow. He was sweet and kind, but he had demons that he couldn't control. When I ended things, I didn't realize how deeply it affected him. As Lu listened, he felt a sense of compassion for Yang. It was a reminder that beneath the facade of a killer lay a human being, a man who had once been capable of love and kindness. Back at the station, Yang sat in his cell, consumed by a storm of emotions. He was aware of the media frenzy surrounding his case, the sensational headlines labeling him as a monster. Each article painted him as a heartless killer, stripping away any semblance of humanity. The world saw him as the Phantom, but within him raged a battle between guilt and the thrill of his dark deeds. Yang began to reflect on his life in solitude, the weight of his actions pressing down on him like a leaden blanket. Memories of his childhood flooded back, the laughter of his peers, the warmth of May's smile, the heartbreak of rejection. It was a kaleidoscope of emotions that left him feeling hollow. He had pursued vengeance, but in doing so, he had forfeited his own humanity. As the days turned into weeks, Yang found himself spiraling deeper into despair. His reflection in the small cell mirror revealed a man he no longer recognized, a monster crafted by his own hands. He yearned for redemption, but felt unworthy of forgiveness. The faces of his victims haunted him, their screams echoing in his mind. Outside the confines of the police station, the village of Yueyang was in turmoil. The once close-knit community had been shattered, the trust between neighbors eroded by fear. Families huddled in their homes, the laughter that once filled the streets replaced by an oppressive silence. Lu organized community meetings to discuss safety measures, but the shadow of Yang's violence loomed large. During one meeting, an elderly man stood up, his voice shaking with anger. "We cannot let this monster define us. We need to come together to heal." The room erupted in a chorus of agreement, but Lu could see the cracks in their unity. Fear had taken root, and it would take more than words to heal the wounds. As Lu listened to the concerns of the villagers, he felt a deep responsibility to restore a sense of safety. He initiated programs to educate the community about recognizing signs of danger and building trust among neighbors. Lu knew that the path to healing would be long and arduous, but it was essential for the community's survival. As the trial approached, Lu found himself torn between his duty to the victims and his growing empathy for Yang. He had seen how the monster had been shaped by his past, and yet he could not condone the atrocities he had committed. It was a complex dichotomy that weighed heavily on his heart. In the courtroom, Yang sat, shackled, his eyes vacant as he listened to the testimonies of the victims' families. Each word cut deeper than any knife, a reminder of the pain he had inflicted. Lu watched as Yang's expression shifted from indifference to remorse, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his guilt. When it was Lu's turn to testify, he stood before the court, heart pounding in his chest. "We must remember that Yang was once a part of this community," he began, his voice steady. "He was a man with dreams, hopes, and love. But the rejection he faced twisted those dreams into nightmares. We cannot ignore the pain that led him to this point." His words stirred murmurs among the spectators, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Lu understood the anger that coursed through them, but he also knew that healing could only begin with understanding. The complexities of human nature were not black and white. They were shades of gray. The trial stretched on for weeks, each day revealing more about Yang's life and the lives he had shattered. As the jury deliberated, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Lu waited anxiously, knowing that the verdict would have far-reaching consequences. When the jury returned, the silence was deafening. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of multiple counts of murder and assault," the foreman announced. Yang's expression remained stoic, but Lu could see the flicker of defeat in his eyes. As the judge pronounced the sentence, life imprisonment without parole, the courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and outrage. For the families of the victims, it was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but it could never bring back the lives that had been lost. In the weeks that followed, the village began to heal, slowly reclaiming its sense of normalcy. Lou worked tirelessly to rebuild the community, organizing events to foster connection and understanding. He wanted to ensure that the legacy of Yang's violence did not define their future. Behind bars, Yang faced the stark reality of his life. In the isolation of his cell, he had time to reflect on the choices that had led him to this point. The darkness that had consumed him now felt suffocating. He began to write letters to the families of his victims, pouring out his remorse and seeking forgiveness. "Dear family," he wrote in one letter, his hands trembling as he put pen to paper. "I cannot express the depths of my sorrow for the pain I caused you. I was lost in my own torment, blinded by rage. I wish I could take it all back, but I know I cannot. I hope you find peace." Each letter was a step toward understanding the magnitude of his actions, a way to confront the demons that had haunted him. Yang was no longer just a phantom. He was a man seeking redemption, even in the face of his darkest deeds. As the seasons changed, the village began to adapt to its new reality. Lou continued his efforts to foster community spirit, but the memory of Yang lingered in the shadows. He held sessions where survivors shared their stories, a collective healing process that allowed them to confront their trauma. During one such session, a young girl spoke up, her voice shaky but determined. "I'm scared to go outside," she confessed, tears welling in her eyes. "But I want to be brave." Lou felt a wave of compassion wash over him, recognizing the strength it took to confront fear. In that moment, he realized the power of vulnerability. By sharing their stories, the villagers were reclaiming their narratives, transforming fear into strength. Lou vowed to continue nurturing this resilience, ensuring that the community would rise above the shadows of the past. As the finality of Yang's trial settled into the fabric of the village, Lou found himself reflecting on his own journey. He had entered this case with a singular focus on justice, but he had emerged with a deeper understanding of the complexities of humanity. The line between good and evil was not as clear as he had once believed. One crisp autumn day, Lou stood at the edge of the village, watching as children played in the sun-drenched fields. Laughter echoed around him, a sound that had once been silenced by fear. The village was healing, but it would never forget the scars left by Yang. In a moment of clarity, Lou realized that healing was not about erasing the past. It was about learning from it. The shadows of vengeance might linger, but they would not define the community. Together, they would forge a new path, one built on understanding, empathy, and resilience. As autumn turned to winter in Yueyang, the village faced an uncertain reality. The chilling winds carried whispers of Yang Xinhai, the monster killer, who had once cast a long shadow over their lives. Though he was imprisoned, his presence still loomed large in the minds of the villagers. The fear that had gripped them during the terror of his spree lingered, manifesting in anxious glances and hushed conversations. Detective Lou had become a pillar of strength for the community, yet even he felt the weight of lingering fear. In the weeks following the trial, he organized community events to foster healing and restore a sense of normalcy. Despite these efforts, the psychological scars left by Yang's actions were not easily erased. Many villagers found themselves grappling with insomnia, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of insecurity. One evening, as Lou made his rounds, he noticed a group of children playing near the edge of the village. Their laughter echoed against the cold night air, a stark contrast to the tension that permeated the streets. Lou smiled, grateful for the innocence of youth, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. In the depths of winter, a new case landed on Lou's desk, one that sent chills down his spine. Reports began to emerge of a series of strange incidents occurring in the outskirts of Yueyang. Livestock had been found mutilated, their remains left in gruesome displays. Farmers spoke of shadows lurking in the fields at night, and whispers of a copycat killer circulated through the community, igniting old fears. Liu quickly organized a meeting with his team, determined to investigate these reports. As he gathered the officers, he felt the familiar weight of responsibility. "We need to act fast," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "The community is already on edge, and we cannot let fear take root again." The team set out to interview the affected farmers, gathering information and investigating the unsettling events. Each account painted a vivid picture of dread, the sounds of footsteps in the dark, the feeling of being watched. It was as if Yang's legacy had awakened a new horror in the village. Liu and his team embarked on their investigation, visiting the homes of the farmers who had reported the incidents. The air was thick with tension as they walked through the village, the once vibrant atmosphere replaced by an unsettling quiet. In the first farmhouse they visited, an elderly woman, Mrs. Chen, recounted her experience with trembling hands. "I heard a noise outside at midnight," she said, her eyes wide with fear. "When I looked out, I saw a figure in the shadows. It was tall, and it moved like it wasn't human." Her voice cracked, and Liu could see the terror etched on her face. "The next morning, I found my chickens mutilated," Liu finished, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. The description of the figure echoed the old fears of Yang, and the idea of a copycat killer was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. As they continued their investigation, more reports poured in. Livestock mutilations, strange sightings, and eerie noises filled the village with dread. Each incident mirrored the patterns of Yang's past, further fueling the community's anxiety. As tensions rose, Liu decided to implement a neighborhood watch program, encouraging villagers to come together and keep an eye out for anything unusual. The idea was met with mixed reactions. Some welcomed the initiative as a way to reclaim their safety, while others felt it would only exacerbate the paranoia. One frigid night, Liu joined the neighborhood watch, equipped with flashlights and a sense of determination. As they patrolled the streets, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The darkness around them felt alive, each rustle of leaves and distant howl amplifying the tension. The group stopped by the edge of the fields, where Mrs. Chen had reported seeing the figure. Liu scanned the area, the beam of his flashlight piercing through the night. "If anyone sees anything, report it immediately," he instructed the group. They nodded, but he could see the fear in their eyes, the fear of the unknown. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. A low growl echoed from the shadows. The group froze, the hair on the back of their necks standing on end. Liu raised his flashlight, illuminating the area. "Stay close," he whispered, the unease palpable in the air. The shadows danced, but nothing emerged. As the neighborhood watch continued their efforts, Liu dedicated himself to understanding the motivations behind the recent incidents. He delved deeper into Yang's background, seeking any clues that might link him to the current situation. Hours turned into days as he scoured through old case files and interviews, desperately searching for connections. During his research, he discovered an unsettling detail. One of Yang's former associates, a man named Liang, had been released from prison shortly after Yang's trial. Liang had served time for minor offenses, but had been a constant presence in Yang's life. Liu began to suspect that Liang might be behind the recent horrors. Determined to confront Liang, Liu set out to find him. He learned that Liang had returned to Yueyang, blending back into the community under the radar. Liu arranged to meet with his team to strategize how to approach the situation without causing panic. The day of the confrontation arrived. Liu and his team staked out Liang's known haunts, waiting for the right moment to approach him. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the village, Lu felt a mix of anticipation and dread. They spotted Liang near the local bar, his demeanor relaxed as he laughed with friends. "Let's move," Lu instructed, adrenaline surging through his veins. As they approached Liang, he turned to face them, surprise washing over his features. "Detective Lu," he greeted, feigning innocence. "What brings you here?" "Liang, we need to talk," Lu replied, his tone stern. "We're investigating the recent incidents in the village. We believe you may have information." Liang's expression shifted, the mask of indifference slipping momentarily. "I don't know anything," he said, backing away slightly. "I've been staying out of trouble since I got out. Have you?" Lu pressed, his voice steady. "Your past ties to Yang make you a person of interest. We know about your connection, and we won't let this community suffer any longer." As the confrontation escalated, Liang's facade began to crumble. The anger in his eyes betrayed a deeper turmoil, a struggle between loyalty to his past and the fear of the consequences. "You don't understand," he shouted, his voice echoing in the alleyway. "Yang was my friend, but I'm not him." Lu stepped closer, sensing the desperation in Liang's demeanor. "Then help us. If you know anything about the mutilations, now is the time to speak up." Liang hesitated, glancing around as if expecting eyes to be upon him. "I didn't do it, but there are others, people who still believe in Yang. They think he was a hero, not a monster." The revelation sent a chill down Lu's spine. It was a reminder that the darkness left by Yang had not only affected the victims, but had also woven itself into the fabric of the community. There were those who romanticized his actions, believing that his violence was a form of twisted justice. In the days that followed, Lu's investigation uncovered a disturbing trend. An underground group had emerged in Yuelyang, one that idolized Yang Xinhai. They called themselves the True Believers, and their allegiance to Yang was evident in their actions. Rumors spread that they were orchestrating the recent incidents, emulating Yang's brutal legacy. The community was gripped with fear as more livestock were found mutilated, each incident marked by sinister symbols drawn in the dirt, a grotesque homage to Yang. The villagers felt trapped in a nightmare, the specter of Yang haunting them once more. Lu organized a town hall meeting, determined to address the growing unrest. As he stood before the villagers, he could sense the tension in the air. "We cannot allow fear to take control of our lives again," he urged. "We must come together and stand against this darkness." Some villagers nodded, while others remained skeptical. They had witnessed the horrors of the past, and were reluctant to believe that safety could ever be restored. Lu knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he refused to let despair take root. With the emergence of the True Believers, Lu intensified his investigation. He and his team began to gather intelligence on the group, interviewing anyone who might have information about their activities. The more they learned, the clearer it became that the group's influence was growing, threatening to plunge the village back into chaos. One night, Lu received an anonymous tip about a gathering of the True Believers. The informant described a clandestine meeting in the woods, where they would convene under the cover of darkness. Lu quickly assembled a team to confront them, determined to put an end to their reign of terror. As they approached the meeting site, the air was thick with tension. The flickering glow of firelight danced in the trees, casting eerie shadows on the ground. Lu felt a mix of anticipation and dread as they crept closer, listening to the chants echoing through the night. "What have we become?" one voice lamented, filled with despair. "Yang showed us the truth, the weakness of this society. We must embrace his legacy." The chilling words sent shivers down Lu's spine. He gestured for his team to hold their positions as he strained to hear more. They were deep in the woods, surrounded by those who believed that violence was the answer. This was a gathering of minds warped by fear and admiration for a killer. With a newfound resolve, Lou decided it was time to confront the group. He signaled his team, and they moved in, emerging from the shadows like avenging phantoms. The true believers were caught off guard, their chants fading into shocked silence. "Enough!" Lou commanded, stepping forward with authority. "Your actions are tearing this community apart. We cannot let the legacy of Yang dictate our lives." Panic erupted among the group as they realized they were surrounded. Some attempted to flee, while others defiantly stood their ground. Lou could see the fear in their eyes, the clash of ideologies playing out before him. "Yang was not a hero," Lou continued, his voice steady. "He was a monster who inflicted pain and suffering. You are choosing to perpetuate that cycle. It ends here." In the ensuing chaos, Lou and his team worked to subdue the group. The struggle was fierce, but the determination to protect the village fueled their efforts. As the dust settled, several members of the true believers were apprehended, their ideology crumbling in the face of reality. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Lou focused on the healing process for both the village and those who had fallen prey to the true believers' ideology. The community had been fractured, but there was hope for recovery. Lou organized support groups to help villagers process their trauma. The sessions provided a safe space for individuals to share their fears and experiences, fostering a sense of unity. Slowly but surely, the village began to rebuild, but the scars of the past remained. As the weeks passed, Lou noticed a change in the atmosphere of Yuelyang. The darkness that had once enveloped the village began to lift, replaced by a sense of resilience. Children played outside again, laughter echoing through the streets as families found solace in each other. Despite the progress, Lou knew that healing would be a long journey. The memories of Yang Xinhai and the trauma he had caused still haunted many villagers. To confront the past, Lou organized a memorial for the victims, honoring their lives and the pain inflicted upon the community. On the day of the memorial, the village gathered in solidarity. Lou stood before the crowd, his heart heavy with the weight of their collective grief. "Today, we remember those we lost," he said, his voice breaking. "Their lives mattered, and we will not let their memories fade in the shadows." As the names of the victims were read aloud, tears flowed freely among the villagers. The act of remembrance became a powerful catharsis, allowing individuals to express their pain while finding strength in their unity. Lou felt a sense of purpose in the air, the shared commitment to move forward together. As spring approached, the village began to blossom, both physically and emotionally. The trees bore new leaves, and the once frozen landscape came to life. Lou felt a renewed sense of hope as he walked through the village, witnessing the resilience of the community. Though the scars of the past would never fully disappear, the villagers had found a way to heal. They had confronted their fears and learned to support one another in their darkest moments. The legacy of Yang Xinhai would always be a part of their story, but it no longer defined them. With the community healing, Lou turned his focus toward the future. He began to advocate for programs that would provide support to those affected by violence, ensuring that the village would never again fall victim to the shadows of fear. He understood that healing was an ongoing process, one that required constant vigilance and compassion. As the seasons changed, Lou watched the village transform. He had seen the darkness that could arise from within, but he had also witnessed the strength that emerged from vulnerability. The journey was far from over, but together, they would navigate the road ahead, embracing hope and resilience. As summer dawned on Yuelyang, the village enjoyed a period of tranquility, the fresh air filled with laughter and the aroma of blooming flowers. Detective Lou had worked diligently to foster a sense of security among the villagers. The memorial had united them, allowing the community to acknowledge the pain of the past while embracing a brighter future. Yet, beneath the surface of this newfound peace, Lou sensed a nagging anxiety. He had seen how quickly fear could resurface, And as he walked through the village, he remained vigilant. The scars of the past were still fresh in the minds of many, and the idea of a copycat killer lingered like a dark cloud. One evening, while preparing for a community gathering, Lou received an anonymous letter slipped under his office door. The letter was cryptic, filled with unsettling phrases that hinted at the return of violence. The monster's legacy lives on. The shadows will rise again. Lou's heart raced as he realized that someone was stirring up old fears. He knew he had to act quickly before panic could take hold once more. The community gathering, meant to be a celebration of resilience, became overshadowed by the weight of the letter. Lou stood before the villagers, his heart heavy with the knowledge that fear was creeping back into their lives. He spoke earnestly about the importance of vigilance and community, urging everyone to look out for one another. As the night wore on, Lou felt a sense of unease. He noticed a group of unfamiliar faces in the crowd, their expressions wary and withdrawn. After the gathering, he approached them, hoping to build a bridge of trust. "I'm Detective Lou. How long have you been in Yuelyang?" he asked, trying to ease their tension. One man stepped forward, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. "We just moved here from another town," he stammered. "Things have been rough there. We thought we could find peace here." The man's words struck a chord with Lou. He sensed a deeper unease, something hidden beneath the surface of their conversation. The move from one troubled place to another was a reflection of the very fears that had plagued Yuelyang for so long. Lou felt a responsibility to ensure that these newcomers would not fall victim to the darkness that had once gripped the village. Days turned into weeks, and despite Lou's efforts, the atmosphere in Yuelyang remained tense. The letter had spread like wildfire, igniting rumors and fostering distrust. Whispers of the true believers resurfaced, along with the possibility of an underground network still loyal to Yang Xinhai. Determined to unearth the truth, Lou and his team began a discreet investigation into the newcomers and their backgrounds. They quickly discovered that the group included individuals with criminal records, some linked to petty crimes, while others had more sinister histories. The realization sent shivers down Lou's spine. The very essence of fear had re-entered their lives. One fateful night, while conducting surveillance, Lou witnessed a meeting between some of the newcomers and known associates of the true believers. They gathered in a secluded area, their voices barely above a whisper. Lou's instincts kicked in, and he signaled his team to take positions, ready for a confrontation. As they moved in, Lou heard fragments of their conversation, revealing plans to instigate fear once more. "We will remind them of the power they fear," one voice declared. "They will know that the monster never truly died." With the situation escalating, Lou stepped into the clearing, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "You're all under arrest," he shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. The group froze, caught between defiance and panic. Chaos erupted as some tried to flee while others stood their ground, ready to fight back. Lou and his team engaged in a tense standoff, the air thick with hostility. "You don't understand," one man shouted, his eyes wild. "Yang was our leader. He showed us the truth. We are the ones who will bring change." The confrontation spiraled into a physical struggle. Lou fought to maintain control, his determination to protect the village fueling his every move. As the dust settled and the last of the resistance was subdued, Lou looked around at the chaos they had averted. This time, they had caught the darkness before it could fully emerge. With several members of the underground network arrested, Lou turned his focus to dismantling the true believers' influence in Yuelyang. The investigation revealed a disturbing web of connections that reached far beyond the village, with individuals sharing a distorted admiration for Yang Xinhai, believing that his brutality was a form of justice. Lou organized interrogations, hoping to extract information that could lead to the group's leaders. As he sat across from one of the captured members, a young man named Zhao. He employed a blend of empathy and authority. "You don't have to do this," Lu urged. "Tell me what you know, and we can help you." Zhao's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "We thought we were fighting against a corrupt society," he admitted, his voice trembling. "We wanted to be part of something greater. But now—" His voice broke, and Lu could see the conflict raging within him. Through Zhao's revelations, Lu discovered a planned rally to galvanize the true believers and recruit new members. It was set to take place at the village's edge, a symbolic location where Yang had once instilled fear. Lu understood that they had to act quickly to prevent a resurgence of violence. As the day of the rally approached, tensions in Yuelyang reached a boiling point. Lu worked tirelessly to ensure the safety of the villagers while preparing his team for the inevitable confrontation. They set up a perimeter around the rally site, aware that the event would attract not only supporters, but also those who oppose the ideology of the true believers. On the day of the rally, a thick fog rolled into the village, casting an eerie pall over the proceedings. Lu watched from a distance as a crowd gathered, their faces a mix of excitement and anger. The air crackled with tension as the speeches began, fueling the flames of rebellion. "We will rise again!" a figure shouted from the makeshift stage, his voice reverberating through the fog. "Yang Xinhai was a hero. We must avenge his legacy." The crowd erupted into cheers, and Lu felt a sense of urgency wash over him. This was not merely a gathering. It was a powder keg ready to explode. He turned to his team, issuing orders to prepare for a swift response. "We cannot let this spiral out of control. We need to disperse the crowd before it escalates." As the speeches continued, tensions reached a breaking point. Lu and his team moved in, attempting to create a barrier between the rally and the village. "This is an illegal assembly," Lu shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You need to disperse immediately." The crowd responded with defiance, shouting back and pushing against the police line. Some began to throw objects, and the atmosphere shifted from fervor to aggression. Lu felt a surge of adrenaline as the confrontation escalated, the threat of violence looming heavy in the air. In the melee, Lu spotted a familiar face among the crowd, Zhao, who had initially provided information during his interrogation. The young man was caught between the opposing sides, his expression one of fear and confusion. "Help me!" he cried, but the chaos swallowed his plea. As the situation spiraled out of control, Lu fought to maintain order. He engaged in hand-to-hand combat with several individuals, his training kicking in as he struggled to protect both the villagers and the rally participants from descending into violence. In the midst of the turmoil, Lu made eye contact with Zhao, who was desperately trying to break free from the throng. "Zhao, get to safety!" Lu shouted, but the words were lost in the chaos. Just then, a loud bang echoed through the air, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Panic erupted as people began to flee, their cries mixing with the chaos. Lu's heart raced as he scanned the area for any signs of danger. It was a shot fired, a warning that could easily escalate into a full-blown disaster. "Team, move in!" Lu barked, rallying his officers to push back against the crowd. The chaos intensified as the line between the police and the true believers blurred. Lu felt a mix of fear and determination. He could not let this be the day that fear won. In the heart of the struggle, Lu saw a glimmer of hope as some members of the crowd began to waver, their resolve crumbling in the face of violence. "This isn't what Yang wanted," one shouted, stepping back as the realization washed over him. "Listen to each other," Lu shouted above the din. "You are not powerless. You don't have to fall into this cycle of violence." His words resonated with some, creating ripples of doubt among the ranks of the true believers. One by one, individuals began to step away from the chaos, recognizing the futility of their actions. With the tide shifting, Lu seized the opportunity to push forward. He reached Zhao, who was now on the ground, trying to shield himself from the violence. "Get up!" Lu urged, pulling him to his feet. "We need to get out of here!" With a renewed sense of urgency, Lu managed to guide Zhao and several other villagers to safety. The police force worked tirelessly to subdue the remaining rioters, but the situation had taken its toll. In the aftermath, the village was left to pick up the pieces, the echoes of the rally still reverberating through their lives. Days turned into weeks as the community faced the consequences of that fateful day. The fear of Yang Xinhai's legacy had returned, and with it, a renewed sense of vigilance was necessary. Lu organized town hall meetings, encouraging open discussions about the events that had transpired. "It's not just about the past," Lu emphasized during one session. "It's about how we choose to move forward. We can't allow fear to dictate our actions any longer." As the villagers slowly began to heal, the sense of unity that had emerged after the memorial returned. People shared their experiences and fears, leaning on one another as they navigated the aftermath of the violence. Recognizing the need for accountability, Lu pursued the remaining members of the underground network, determined to dismantle the organization that had attempted to resurrect Yang Xinhai's influence. With Zhao's cooperation, they uncovered the true extent of the group's connections and their intent to spread fear beyond Yuelyang. Weeks of investigation revealed a web of individuals, some living in nearby towns, all connected by their admiration for Yang. Lu worked closely with local authorities, coordinating a series of raids to apprehend those responsible for perpetuating the cycle of violence. The operations were tense, filled with uncertainty, but Lu remained resolute. He was determined to protect the village and ensure that the legacy of Yang Xinhai would not resurface to haunt them again. As arrests were made, the village slowly began to breathe a sigh of relief. The threat of the true believers had been significantly diminished, yet the scars of the previous months lingered. Lu understood that true healing required more than just physical safety. It required emotional support and understanding. Lu arranged workshops focused on conflict resolution and emotional healing, emphasizing the importance of communication within the community. He encouraged open dialogues, allowing villagers to express their fears and experiences while fostering a sense of solidarity. Despite the progress, Lu remained vigilant. The shadows of the past would always linger, and he knew that the path to healing was fraught with challenges. Yet, the resilience he witnessed in the villagers inspired him. Together, they faced their fears, inching closer to reclaiming the peace that had once defined Yuelyang. Months passed, and while the community appeared to be healing, Lu found himself reflecting on his own journey. The weight of the past lingered in his thoughts, and he struggled to reconcile the pain inflicted by Yang Xinhai and the continued existence of fear. One night, as he reviewed case files in his office, Lu received a call that would change everything. A new lead had emerged, a sighting of a figure resembling Yang Xinhai in a neighboring town. The revelation sent chills down Lu's spine. Had the monster truly returned, or was this merely a figment of their collective fear? Without hesitation, Lu gathered his team and set out to investigate the sighting. The drive to the neighboring town was filled with tension and anticipation, each member of the team aware of the stakes at hand. They had to determine if the shadows were indeed rising again. Arriving in the neighboring town, Lu felt a sense of unease settle over him. The streets were eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the bustling energy of Yuelyang. They began their search, canvassing the area for any sign of the figure. As they approached an abandoned building, Lu felt a familiar chill run down his spine. The place bore an unsettling resemblance to the sites where Yang had committed his crimes. The air thick with the stench of decay, they cautiously entered, each step echoing in the silence. Inside, they found remnants of a past long forgotten, discarded items that spoke to a life once lived. Lou's heart raced as he felt the weight of history bearing down on him. "We're not alone," he whispered to his team, sensing the presence of something sinister lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the back of the building, a low, guttural laugh that sent shivers down Lou's spine. He gestured for silence, and they crept forward, the tension palpable in the air. As they rounded a corner, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. In the dim light, a figure emerged, cloaked in shadows, his presence suffocating. Lou's heart pounded as he faced the specter of the past. "Yang Xinhai?" he called out, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. But the figure merely laughed, a twisted sound that resonated through the abandoned structure. "You think you can erase me?" he taunted, his voice dripping with malice. "I am the monster you can't escape." With adrenaline surging, Lou and his team moved in to apprehend the figure, but he was quicker, slipping into the shadows like smoke. A frantic chase ensued through the decrepit building, each corner turned fraught with danger. The darkness seemed to conspire against them as they raced through the maze of rooms, each moment amplifying their desperation. "Split up!" Lou shouted, directing his team to cover more ground. He felt a mix of determination and dread, driven by the need to confront the monster that had haunted their lives for far too long. As Lou pursued the figure, he felt the weight of his duty pressing heavily upon him. This was not just about apprehending a suspect. It was about reclaiming the safety of the village, about extinguishing the fear that had become all too familiar. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lou caught up to the figure in a small, dimly lit room. The atmosphere was thick with tension as they faced each other. "You can't win," Lou declared, his voice unwavering. "Your reign of terror ends here." The figure smiled, a chilling expression that sent a shiver down Lou's spine. "You think you can defeat me? I am the embodiment of their fears, the nightmare that will never die." Without warning, the figure lunged at Lou, and the two grappled in a fierce struggle. The darkness enveloped them, the room spinning as they fought for control. Lou felt the weight of his past, and the collective trauma of the village pushing him forward. He would not allow the monster to claim another life. In a moment of desperation, Lou managed to overpower the figure, pitting him against the wall. "It's over," he gasped, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. But as he looked into the figure's eyes, he realized it was not Yang Xinhai. Instead, it was a desperate man consumed by the shadows. Breathing heavily, Lou released his grip on the man, realizing the truth. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice firm. The man's face contorted in anguish as he struggled to regain composure. "I thought I could become something greater," he admitted, tears streaming down his face. "Yang Xinhai showed us power. I wanted to feel that strength, to make a name for myself." Lou felt a wave of understanding wash over him. This was not a monster, but a product of fear and desperation. "You don't have to live in the shadows," Lou urged, his voice softer now. "There's a better path, one that doesn't lead to violence." The man trembled, the weight of his actions crashing down around him. "But how?" he whispered, his eyes pleading. Lou took a deep breath, recognizing the opportunity to break the cycle. "By embracing hope and community, by finding strength in unity rather than fear. It's not too late." With the figure apprehended and the truth unveiled, Lou returned to Yueyang with a renewed sense of purpose. He worked tirelessly to ensure that the shadows of the past would not resurface. The man they had captured became a focal point for discussions about violence, fear, and redemption. In the following weeks, Lou organized community workshops aimed at addressing the root causes of fear and fostering understanding. The villagers learned to confront their anxieties, supporting one another as they faced the complexities of healing. Zhao, who had once felt trapped by the shadows, emerged as a voice of change within the community. Together with Lou, they shared their experiences, highlighting the importance of embracing hope and building connections rather than succumbing to the darkness. As autumn approached, the village began to feel a sense of renewal. The leaves changed colors, mirroring the transformation occurring within Yuelyang. Lu marveled at the resilience of the community, their determination to move forward despite the shadows that lingered. During a town meeting, Lu stood before the villagers, his heart swelling with pride. "We have faced the darkness together," he declared, his voice steady, "and we have emerged stronger. Let us continue to support one another and build a future free from fear." The villagers erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the crisp autumn air. In that moment, Lu felt a sense of hope that he had longed for, the realization that they could rise above the horrors of the past. Months later, as winter descended upon Yuelyang, the community had transformed. The memorial dedicated to the victims of Yang Xinhai stood as a symbol of their resilience, a reminder of the darkness they had conquered together. Lu often visited the site, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken. He understood that fear would always exist, but it didn't have to define them. They had chosen to embrace hope, to foster connection, and to build a legacy of light. In the fading sunlight, Lu watched as children played, their laughter filling the air, a sound that once felt lost. The darkness had not vanished entirely, but it no longer held power over them. They had reclaimed their village, choosing unity over division, light over darkness. And as he stood there, surrounded by the community he had come to love, Lu felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that together they had forged a new path forward, one where the shadows could never again cast such a long and terrifying shadow. The winter months in Yuelyang brought a chilling wind that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Despite the community's attempts to move forward, a sense of unease settled over the village once more. Lu often found himself gazing into the distance, haunted by memories of the terror that had gripped them not long ago. As spring approached, the villagers prepared for the annual festival, a celebration of renewal and unity. However, this year, the festivities were overshadowed by rumors circulating through the village about a new figure emerging, someone who had begun to mimic the violent acts of Yang Xinhai. The police received multiple reports of mysterious occurrences, strange figures seen lurking near homes, shadows moving in the night, and whispers in the wind. The community, still fragile from their past, braced itself for another storm. Lu took it upon himself to address the growing anxiety. During a town meeting, he stood before the villagers, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "I know we are all feeling the weight of fear again, but we must not let it consume us. Let's stand united and vigilant." Zhao, who had become a trusted ally, supported Lu's message. "We need to organize patrols, work together to keep our village safe. We cannot allow the shadows to take hold again." With a sense of determination, the villagers formed watch groups, patrolling the streets at night, sharing their fears and observations. The unity that had emerged after Yang Xinhai's arrest had prepared them for this challenge. Yet a lingering anxiety gnawed at their hearts. Despite their efforts, the tension escalated when one night, a scream pierced the stillness of the village. Lu was jolted awake, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He rushed outside, heart pounding as he joined the growing crowd gathered around the home of a local family. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with fear. The family's eldest daughter, Mei, had reported seeing a shadowy figure outside her window moments before she screamed. Lu felt the chill of dread wash over him, as he realized the nightmare was creeping closer once again. As the police arrived, they began to investigate. Lu stood at the forefront, offering reassurance to the villagers while absorbing the gravity of the situation. "We will find out who is behind this. We will not let fear win." The investigation into the disturbance unfolded rapidly. Police interviewed Mei and her family, trying to piece together the events of that night. Her description of the figure, tall, cloaked in darkness, with an unsettling grin, sent shivers down Lu's spine. As the days turned into a week, more reports trickled in from other families. Each description echoed May's, each account laced with the same terror. Lu and Zhao coordinated with law enforcement, urging the community to remain vigilant while they sought to uncover the truth. Do you think it could be someone trying to instill fear to revive what Yang left behind? Zhao questioned one evening as they reviewed the reports. It's possible, Lu replied, his brow furrowed in thought. But we need to consider all angles. It could also be someone who is mentally unstable, using the fear of Yang to manipulate us. Determined to put an end to the rising panic, Lu organized a series of meetings to discuss safety measures and encourage open communication among the villagers. As Lu and Zhao continued their investigation, they stumbled upon something chilling, news of a group of individuals who had formed a following, calling themselves the True Seekers. They idolized Yang Xinhai, believing his actions were justified, a form of retribution against a society that had wronged them. Digging deeper, Lu learned that this group had been growing quietly, recruiting disillusioned individuals and drawing them into a world of darkness. Their meetings were shrouded in secrecy, but rumors of their activities spread like wildfire through the village. Realizing the potential danger, Lu felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He reached out to the police to share his findings, advocating for increased surveillance on the group. We need to cut this off before it grows any larger, he insisted. As Lu's fears escalated, he received word that the True Seekers planned to hold a gathering on the night of the festival. The thought of them tainting a celebration meant to symbolize hope, and unity ignited a fire within him. We cannot allow this, he told Zhao, determination flashing in his eyes. We must confront them. On the night of the festival, the air buzzed with excitement as villagers prepared for the celebrations. However, beneath the surface, anxiety simmered as Lu and a small group of brave villagers gathered, prepared to infiltrate the True Seekers' meeting. As they approached the designated location, hidden in the shadows of a nearby forest, Lu's heart raced. The flickering light of a fire illuminated the gathering, revealing the faces of those who had succumbed to darkness. Tonight, we will show our strength, a man shouted, his voice reverberating through the night. We will reclaim the power that society took from us. Lu felt a surge of anger as he recognized some of the faces in the crowd, people he had known and trusted. He turned to his group, urgency in his tone. We need to stop this before it escalates. As they stepped forward, the True Seekers turned to face them, confusion morphing into hostility. What are you doing here? The leader demanded, eyes narrowing. This is our gathering. We're here to stop you from spreading fear and hatred, Lu declared, stepping forward with unwavering resolve. Yang Xinhai's legacy does not belong to you. The leader scoffed, a twisted smile spreading across his face. You think you can erase what he stood for? You're just prolonging your own suffering. Tensions escalated as both sides clashed verbally, the atmosphere thick with animosity. Lu realized they needed to appeal to reason before the confrontation spiraled into violence. Lu raised his hands, trying to diffuse the tension. This isn't about Yang Xinhai, it's about our community. We can't allow the past to dictate our future. We have a choice, fear or hope. The crowd shifted uneasily, some beginning to waver. Look at what we've built, Lu continued passionately. We've faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. Don't let fear pull you back into the shadows. For a moment, silence enveloped them as the weight of Lu's words hung in the air. Zhao stood beside him, reinforcing their message of unity. We can find strength in each other, not in violence. But the leader of the True Seekers scoffed, clearly resistant to change. You're weak, he spat. This community will fall apart without strength. With the air thick with tension, Lu knew they had to act swiftly. He signaled his group to stay alert, prepared for anything. "We won't allow you to corrupt what we've built," he asserted, determination hardening his voice. Before Lou could say more, the true seekers surged forward, and chaos erupted. Lou's group fought back, a whirlwind of shouts and struggles filling the night air. The sounds of conflict pierced through the festival, where the joyful celebrations quickly turned into panic. "Get out!" Lou shouted to the villagers, trying to direct them away from the chaos. "Find safety!" As the battle raged, Lou found himself face to face with the leader. Anger surged through him, but he kept his composure. "This ends now!" he yelled, pushing back against the man's aggressive stance. The confrontation escalated, punches thrown, and chaos ensued. Lou managed to wrestle the leader to the ground, pinning him down. "You don't have to do this," he shouted, desperation filling his voice. "You can choose a different path." As the dust settled, the police arrived, quickly assessing the situation. With their intervention, the true seekers were apprehended, their movement disrupted for the time being. Lou's heart pounded as he looked around at the villagers who had witnessed the chaos. The festival, meant to celebrate unity, had turned into a battleground. But as Lou surveyed the scene, he saw something unexpected: people coming together to support one another, offering comfort to those shaken by the violence. In the days that followed, the village began to heal. Lou and Zhao organized meetings to discuss what had transpired, fostering open dialogues about fear and resilience. The experience had reignited the community's commitment to standing together against the darkness. Despite the tumultuous events, hope began to bloom once more. The villagers worked together to reclaim their festival, transforming it into a celebration of resilience. They decorated the village with lanterns, each light symbolizing their determination to shine against fear. As the night of the renewed festival approached, Lou stood at the forefront, feeling a sense of pride. The community had faced the shadows and emerged stronger, their bond solidified by shared experiences. During the festival, laughter and music filled the air, washing away the remnants of fear. Lou watched as children danced, their joy infectious. He felt a sense of peace, realizing they had chosen to embrace the light. In the weeks that followed, Lou and the villagers engaged in various activities to promote healing. They held workshops, art sessions, and communal meals, fostering connection and understanding among the community members. Through these initiatives, they began to share their stories, the fear they had felt, the pain they had endured, and the hope that had emerged. Each shared experience was a thread woven into the fabric of their unity, reinforcing the idea that they could rise above the darkness together. As the seasons changed, the village began to thrive once more. The shadows of the past remained, but they no longer held the same power. Lou felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The true seekers had been scattered, their influence diminished, but the memory of their actions lingered. Lou understood that vigilance was essential. They must continue to support one another and remain steadfast against the fear that had once gripped them. Months passed, and as Lou stood at the memorial dedicated to the victims of Yangshinhai, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The community had turned tragedy into resilience, and their journey had forged bonds that could withstand the test of time. As spring blossomed once more, the villagers gathered to honor those lost and celebrate the strength of their unity. They shared stories, laughter, and tears, ensuring that the memory of the past would not fade but rather serve as a reminder of their strength. In the light of the setting sun, Lou felt a sense of hope. The darkness would always exist, but so would their determination to rise above it. They had chosen to embrace love and connection, to find strength in one another, and to illuminate even the darkest corners of their lives. As the village of Yuelyang continued to thrive, Lou felt a profound sense of purpose. The scars of the past had shaped them, but they had emerged from the shadows, choosing to create a brighter future. In the years to come, the village would face new challenges, but their bond would remain unbreakable. Together, they would navigate the complexities of life, fueled by the knowledge that they had triumphed over darkness before and could do so again. Lou often reminded his fellow villagers, "We are the light in the darkness. Together, we can overcome anything." And with those words, they embraced the future, ready to face whatever lay ahead, hand in hand. Underscore 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 underscore. Thank you for joining me on this journey through William. The themes of resilience, community, and hope are essential in overcoming adversity. May we all carry the light within us, forging connections that guide us through the darkest of times.